The Disney press machine is hard at work to have you believe that Shang Chi is a massive triumph at the box office this weekend, but the reality says otherwise. We're going to talk about that here today and why Shang Chi is a box office financial failure for Disney and does not bode well for the Phase 4 going into this point. Before I begin, I just want to say thanks to everybody. It's been a busy week down here. We have been suffering the effects of Hurricane Ida. Fortunately, no damage suffered. I appreciate everybody's well wishes out there, and I'm glad that we're able to try to get back on here, even with cellular data, to start getting regular videos uploaded. Did a couple of lives last week to try to fill people in on what was going on. So I appreciate all those warm wishes. I appreciate this community so much, the support. Please make sure you're subscribed, make sure you like this video, hit that notification bell, and do share it out on social media. It's a big help. We are almost to 1,500 subscribers, and we are about 300 watch hours away from YouTube monetization, so I appreciate everybody's support. However, during the last couple of days on Shang-Chi's box office, I certainly started getting some cute little messages from some of you out there on my last Shang-Chi video suggesting why I thought it would be a failure. And you take this weekend's headlines to think that I was wrong. Well, guess what? Renegade is back online, and I'm probably about to piss you off. Renegade Online. Shang-Chi is a triumph. Folks, it's breaking box office records for Labor Day weekend. What a grand success. Yeah, right. I guess if you don't understand how box office revenues work, you could rejoice in all the grandiose Disney press releases being rebranded as news articles in places like Deadline and Variety. Sure, it smashed Labor Day records, but in the movie world, that's like saying it's the most polished poop in the pail, especially when you consider the gross revenues versus total production and marketing costs for this film. The reality, however, is that this will likely become, as of now, the worst performing MCU title of the entire franchise, especially when you adjust for inflation. But there is one thing going right about Shang-Chi. It probably has Disney's legal department smiling ear to ear. But we'll get into that in just a bit. Now, I want to be very, very clear once again. This is not a commentary on the quality of the movie itself. I don't care if it's good or bad, or whether you liked it or hated it. That's not what this analysis is about. My desire to see this film is minimal at best. So I have no skin in the game one way or the other. If I want to watch a kung fu movie, believe me, I own dozens of legit Chinese productions. I've never really enjoyed American attempts at martial arts films. All I want to discuss here is whether Shang-Chi is actually a triumph, quote-unquote, in the only metric that actually matters: profit. Yes, Hollywood is still actually a business. In case you forgot, a business must make money. Right now, Shang-Chi's box office patterns do not indicate this movie will turn a profit. Disney, in fact, will be very lucky to even break even on this as of now. When Black Widow dropped less than 2 months before Shang-Chi on July 9th, it hauled in roughly $160 million worldwide, including nearly $80 million at the domestic box office on about 4,100 screens. Over the same 3-day opening period, Shang-Chi managed a paltry $120 million worldwide, with roughly $70 million domestic. Even factoring in Labor Day Monday projections from today, Shang-Chi is still set to underperform Black Widow with a roughly $140 million global cum. Oh, and by the way, does anyone remember what Disney was also touting that opening weekend about Black Widow? Why, it was another $60 million in gross revenues from Disney+, which gave Disney the ability to make the glorious $200 million opening weekend statement and sing it to the heavens. Well, folks, Shang Chi was theatrically exclusive. In other words, the only way to see Shang Chi was to go to one of 4,300 plus screens in North America and buy a ticket. Yep, that's 200 more screens for Shang Chi than Black Widow opened on. There was no Disney Plus backstop, no alternative delivery system. Quite frankly, Shang-Chi is the first cinematic installment of the MCU Phase 4, and it should have blown the doors off of Black Widow at the box office. Not only did Shang-Chi not beat Black Widow, it couldn't even match it, falling 20% or more behind just the global box office haul of a movie that was also available on streaming day and date with its theatrical release. That is absolutely, unequivocally abysmal and embarrassing. And that, folks, is a box office failure. Is that not enough for you? Well, let's take one step further, shall we? Black Widow and Shang-Chi both had very similar production budgets, between $150 and $200 million, as most Marvel movies do. Both had their similar excess financing costs due to the one-year delay in each of their releases, which added about another $10 million or so in interest costs to each. Then, when we can reasonably assume both had similar marketing budgets of at least $100 million from the distribution wing at Disney, well, you see where this is going. That tells me that since studios get on average of about 50 to 60% of the total global box office, Shang-Chi needs to haul at least $500 million just for Disney to break even. Forget about even making a profit. And don't forget, even the Shang-Chi toys began to hit clearance shelves at Walmart and Target a month ago. The next thing you need to understand is that the total run in box office revenue is largely predicted, historically speaking, by what happens opening weekend, with very rare exception. Movies tend to haul anywhere from 2x over the opening weekend to 3x over their total run on the high side, meaning if a movie has an opening weekend of around $100 million, you can expect it to close out between $200 and $300 million total on average. Very rarely will you get massive hits that grow long legs and do even better, like The Greatest Showman with Hugh Jackman, which finished a staggering 53-week theatrical run with well over 10 times its opening weekend, thanks to building a rabid fan base. But there's zero indication anywhere that will happen with Shang-Chi. I explained why in my last video on this movie, so check that one out. Things, however, aren't all bad for Disney with this failure of Shang-Chi, however. As Bob Chapek recently said on an investor call, quote, "Shang-Chi will be an interesting experiment to provide some unique data points to make decisions going forward." Well, he got a bunch of data points this weekend, and it wasn't very good. But what was good for the legal department regarding Shang-Chi is the wealth of new evidence to help fight the recent lawsuit from Scarlett Johansson about Black Widow's release. You see, the ScarJo lawsuit complains that Disney, under a breach of contract, which did not release her film exclusively into theaters, cost her compensation otherwise due under said contract from theatrical revenues that would have been realized were those revenues not shunted to Disney Plus with a day and date release with theaters. Well, the relatively poor performance of Shang-Chi with its exclusive box office release just graciously handed the Disney legal team a golden glove to punch back at ScarJo's legal argument. Because Shang-Chi unequivocally underperformed Black Widow, it just handed Disney hard credence to their statement that the hybrid model ScarJo is suing over could be easily interpreted as enhancing the overall performance of her film, Black Widow. Now, I'm not saying whether I agree with that sentiment or not. I'm just offering my thoughts on where I think Disney will take this because, well, why wouldn't they? As of now, Shang-Chi is a fail. Period. Even China, who Shang-Chi was explicitly made for, barred it from entry into the country, and none of this looks like it's changing anytime. There are no amount of cute YouTube, Twitter comments, or regurgitated Disney press releases that will alter financial reality for Shang Chi. Its financial performance is an unmitigated, disastrous start to the theatrical MCU Phase 4, and I frankly don't see the Eternals doing markedly better. It's likely going to take Sony Pictures' Spider-Man No Way Home to get things moving, as the trailer for that movie absolutely obliterated viewership records in its first 24 hours, demolishing even Avengers Endgame. And getting roughly 20 times the view of Shang-Chi's trailers in the same first 24-hour metric, well, there you go again. People are certainly entitled to their own opinions, but not their own facts. Disney might have broken even by the skin of their teeth with Black Widow thanks to bolstering with Disney Plus Premier Access. But no excuses. Theatrical-only Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Red Ink doesn't look like it will come even close.